Welcome to Coming Home, Survive and Thrive in Homeschooling. This week, I'm taking a break from the normal style of podcast that I have been doing, and I'm going to talk about joy. I realize that most of what we have on the podcast can sometimes be, serious, because that's the purpose of what this podcast is. My job is to encourage, equip, and help you to survive and thrive in homeschooling. So by the very definition of my purpose, a lot of the content of what I'm doing can be serious. So we're taking a break from that this week. Joy versus happiness. Joy is not an emotion, but happiness is. Joy is close to contentment and a sense of deep awareness where the word happy would be inadequate. Examples I could give to try and explain what joy is the way I would explain that to you. For me, a baby who has gone to sleep in my arms, all of my own 5 babies, and more recently, my granddaughter. The experience of having a babe asleep in my arms would always bring this deep sense of peace, contentment, that all was well in the world, a sense of joy. It's not easy to describe, I don't think. You can probably hear that I'm even struggling to pull the right words out of my personal lexicon to try and explain what joy is. But I think if you've experienced it, you go, yes, I know what you mean. That was joy. And right through the growing up years of children, when an adult child, for instance, would come to talk about something important to them, or seeing them realize something more of God's truth in their life. And a lot of things like this bring joy to a parent. It's not the joy that there is a current guru of decluttering, and I don't recall what her name is, and it doesn't matter what her name is, you will know what I mean. But part of what she says is, does it spark joy? I've always felt since I heard her that the use of joy in that sense was both twee and underwhelming. I'm not talking about the sense that you might feel of joy in her words as I pick up an item. Do I keep this or do I put it out? That's not joy. I don't think that's the right use of the word, not in this sense anyway, not for what I'm talking about today. Sometimes you must seek joy. For whatever reason of what's going on in your life, sometimes the darkness just seems to overwhelm what light there is, or the light is fading. In times like this, you must find joy. Jordan Peterson, in his book, The 12 Rules for Life, has got a chapter in there, and it refers to the importance of stopping, I think it is, to stroke a cat. And what he's trying to say in that part of the book is that you can be in the depths of despair, as Anne of Green Gables would call it. And in his situation, he was walking out on a footpath in a very difficult and dark time of their life, and a cat just randomly happened to walk across the footpath in front of him. So he stopped and bent down and stroked it. And in that moment, the distraction from the events and the awareness that the cat has no idea of what's going on in your life, just for a moment, light just shone into the dark part of his life. And it might have gone again quite as quickly, but in itself, it was a significant, important time. So what is it for you when you're finding it hard to seek joy? You can't really manipulate it to happen in your life, but you can encourage it to appear. If it's not stopping to stroke a cat, perhaps you don't like cats. Do you like scratching the ear of a dog? Do they bring you joy? What about walking out and listening to the bird song at the end of the day? Listening to the waves crash on a beach? or riding your bike and having the wind just blow back through your hair, you know what little things can bring you joy. Seek joy. In times of hardship, both personal and on a wider scale, either in your community, country, or even global, it's important to remember every generation has difficult times to be endured. They lived through it, adjusted living circumstances accordingly, and they suffered loss. Yet, here we are, forgetting history and assuming we're living in the scariest time, at least in recent history. Not so. Somebody I recently interviewed stated, history is more important than current events. And I want you to think about that statement carefully, history being more important than current events. These few years have been tough, often cruel, and with much successful fear-mongering. Look back at history and be encouraged. We are not alone as we go through these times. We too will come through, and we will not let them steal our joy. Find the joy. If life has been serious and tough, and life is and actually should have these things, and if it's serious and tough for longer than you think you can endure, find the joy. You will have to do that. Even a small glimpse can be reassuring enough to bring you relief. Bringing it closer to home, we had a wedding last weekend. Our second daughter is married. There were many things to bring joy, and a few stresses too. The joy of seeing your daughter, oh so beautiful, glowing in joy, walking on her father's arm towards her fiancé, who himself is struck by beauty and joy. The significance of handing her to him, and the joy of a parent to know they are so proud of her. Or wedding vows. The couple say theirs, but for many it serves the purpose of a sense of recommitment, reassurance, and yes, joy. Here is some of what I wrote in my speech for the wedding reception. Witnessing a public commitment to each other brings joy to us all and hope for our future. It reminds us of our weddings, as you made your vows to each other. We recall our own, thus reinforcing the bond of marriage to each other, our family units, and the wider community. Stable marriages bring good things to our society. So what can you do about people who would try to steal your joy? Resolving not to let them is a good place to start. The how includes not stooping to their level in your response. It involves a few other things too, but that's not the purpose of this podcast. These things can happen at any time of life. Joy stealers. In a time of joy, someone will try to steal it. No, just no. I want to read another quote for you, and I've kept this quote in my house folder for many years. If I had my life to live over, by Irma Bombeck, I would have invited friends over to dinner, even if the carpet was stained and the sofa faded. I would have eaten the popcorn in the good living room and worried much less about the dirt when someone wanted to light a fire in the fireplace. I would have taken the time to listen to my grandfather ramble about his youth. I would never have insisted the car windows be rolled up on a summer day because my hair had just been teased and sprayed. I would have burned the pink candle, sculpted like a rose, before it melted in storage. I would have sat on the lawn with my children and not worried about grass stains. I would have cried and laughed less while watching television and more while watching life. I would have gone to bed when I was sick instead of pretending the earth would go into holding pattern if I wasn't there for the day. I would never have bought anything just because it was practical, wouldn't show soil, or guaranteed to last a lifetime. Instead of wishing away 9 months of pregnancy, I would have cherished every moment, realizing that the wonderment growing inside me was the only chance in life to assist God in a miracle. When my kids kissed me impetuously, I would never have said, "Later, now go and get washed up for dinner." There would have been more "I love yous" and more "I'm sorries." But mostly, given another shot at life, I would seize every minute, look at it and really see it, live it, and never give it back. I'd like you to try to remember her words, write them down, or look them up and print them, but keep them somewhere to remind you to reset your joy-ometer whenever it's necessary for you. Well, thank you for listening, and I hope that this encourages you to find joy in your life. Embrace it when it comes to you unasked and unexpected, and go and look for it when you really, really need it. See you next week.